Sunny Side Out with Dave and Mecky. So I hope you have your tinfoil hat all made, cinched down tight over your ears. So take it away, Dave and Mecky.
Hi, welcome to Shiny Side Out with Dave.
And Mecky.
Broadcasting live from the Sydney studios in Australia. Jump into the chat room at freedomslips.com and discuss with us the topics that we get you thinking about while we're on air. You can listen from there too. Also, follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Check out shinysideout.net for our show archives, notes, and links we paste into the chat during the show. It's easy to listen to Revolution Radio. If you live in Kentucky, tune in on FM, find WZZR 101.3, or get an app. Revolution Radio, TalkStream Live, these are all apps by the way, TuneIn.com, Radio Tuner, Spreaker.com, iHeart, Live 365, and our very own app, Shiny Side Out. At home, on a Grace Tabletop digital radio, you can listen to us, they're pretty cool, or driving around in a general motor vehicle with a receiver-enabled radio. All are revolutions in radio. And as Hawk said in the promo, you can buy a CD of your favourite hosts for 2013, almost 2014 season. Each costs $30, and we should be getting half of the proceeds of that. However, no one's bought any because we haven't received any. Check the info on the station's website for more. Okay, if you are in the USA, you can call in on 347-688-2902 or add Freedom Screen, that's Freedom Screen, to Skype and you can message us. Solaris had a great show again. Mecky, Sam Baltaris?
I think that's right.
Yeah. Baltruis.
That's the right pronunciation?
Yeah.
No,
I don't know. I'm terrible with pronunciation. You know that. Paranormal Historian. Great show. Haven't listened to that while we were on air. I had one ear on the show on her show. And by the way, if you missed Solaris's great show and or all the other ones, go to the show archives. You'll love it.
That'll help.
Mecky, I have to say, straight up, just straight away, this is show number 148.
840 and 100. Yes, two more to 150, guys. Which means we're close to 3 years on the air. 3 years. That's almost 1,000 days, right? It's more than 1,000 days.
Yeah. Terrible. That's like crusty.
Unbelievable. 3 years.
I know. Who'd have thunk it?
You know, that's actually because we had a couple of 4-hour shows, but on average, that's about 300 hours of programming.
Mm-hmm.
So we have got 300 hours of us talking out there. That's a little scary.
Oh boy!
Right?
Boy, that's something.
Yeah.
Hey, Mecky, look, everyone, if you don't know, this is breaking news, by the way. We're on top of this. A couple of hours ago, we put out a YouTube clip discussing the Air Asia missing plane flight number QZ8501, or what we suspect to be the plane flight registration number, which is pk-axc. We're right up on top of this. As soon as it disappeared, I looked for the flight registration number, and I looked to see if I could find something, and I found someone had already posted this, and we're looking at the track ourselves. Found a pretty cool YouTube clip here, and you can see all the other air traffic. And look, just for the audience sake, I'm just going to show them the quantity of air traffic that's in this vicinity, and you can see I'm following it with the mouse, and that's the actual plane. There's a plane just to the left and up ahead of it. There's also a plane tracking behind it. The plane tracking behind and ahead are going to their own destinations. The airspace is completely filled with planes. I mean, completely.
Yeah.
And according to this flight log, within 10 minutes, the plane behind had passed through the same space as when the plane went missing. So I'm just going to take it back and I'll show you pretty much roughly the same point. So you can see There's a plane for 2 planes in front. There's a plane behind, and that's where it's gone missing right there. The pilot, it said so far that the pilot requested an alteration of its route. It wanted to change altitude based on an unusual cloud in front of it. That's what they said on the news, and I've been watching all the channels. One thing really interesting about this is that they've immediately started to debunk all of the stories coming out. So, Meki, I have to ask you a question. When have you seen such immediacy when it comes to debunking something?
Well, the swiftness that we've seen here is only comparable to 9/11. I hate to say it, but that was the swiftest I've ever seen any debunking happening ever.
Ever, right?
This is ever. I mean, like within hours, Mr. Bush said, "We shall never believe any outrageous conspiracy theories."
Yeah, why would you even get in that path if it wasn't a conspiracy?
Exactly, and he said, "Well, we're pretty sure it's Osama bin Laden. Yes, he's the evildoer." So these two things immediately, boom, right? And
That's right.
so it's of course fantastic. I mean, attack is the best defense, and we see this here as well, because you can always point back to the day and say, no, look, we've told you already that it's not this. Just go back to what these people said on that day, and forget all the other stuff that's been going on. It's very strange, and you just said something that sparked something. We discussed this before the show. That you mentioned as well. It was Flight 19 that said the very same thing. Some very strange clouds, in front of us.
Yes.
There was an instrument malfunction, and that was the last we heard of Flight 19. And this year's, this is a pilot with some 6,000 hours of flight experience, which is,
That's right.
It's not a little. It's more than Dave and I have, and combined. And,
even as a passenger, Meki.
Actually, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I travel a lot for work, guys. So, and he says there's an unusual cloud, and we will change our flight. He actually requested a different flight height, didn't he?
That's right.
Now that's pretty drastic. Now I don't know if you guys have this application on your computer, but if you do, it's called planefinder.net. Okay, do yourself a favor and just go look at it. It doesn't cost anything. It just opens up to the world. Then zoom in, and you will see just how many planes there are at any given time. To change your flight altitude is actually a major ask, because there are lots of other flights going on at the same time, and the key thing that the flight controllers are trying to do is make sure these planes don't collide. Right? There's no mid-air collision, and for that everybody needs to stay in their flight lane. Right? This is usually referring to the altitude and the path the plane takes. If a plane wants to change, that has a knock-on effect. Okay, so a pilot wouldn't just ask that. Plus, changing altitude will also burn more fuel, so it'll cost more. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of considerations around this. And a cloud? I mean, this pilot must have seen a gazillion clouds in his flight time.
Exactly.
For him to say there's an unusual cloud means it's a really unusual cloud, right? Okay, so sorry, just a bit of thought there, guys. Okay.
No, you're absolutely right. And the first thing they started doing was look. They had an expert. All these experts drive me nuts. The first one said, "You know what? We don't know what they actually saw." Look, I've seen exactly the same thing on a debunking show about UFOs.
I'm an expert in informatology and planology. I know many things about sciencing and other things.
I science, don't you?
Frequently.
So this one thing was really funny was what they did was they had a meteorologist showing us at that point in the day that there were massive thunderstorms. Massive. They said up to 50,000 feet. That's cool. Planes won't fly up that high, so they couldn't have gone up and over, but they could have gone around it at that time. They'd already gone past a very large one, and the cloud tops were very cold, which means it's probably hail, but not in the one that they were going into. Sure, you can encounter wind shear, which is two different masses of air going in two different vertical directions. And as the plane flies into either the elevator going up or the elevator going down, their first tendency is the wrong one. So to adjust the plane's attitude towards their issue. Whether if they're sinking, you don't want to pull the plane up. You just want to fly out of it. And if you fly out of it level, you'll be right when you get out. But normally they pull the nose up, then they reach stall because they're in a descending air mass. It's tragic. That can be seen on Doppler radar, which is in every plane now, especially the Airbus A320s, which the pk-axc was.
Yes.
Or is.
I mean, we should say that. That's correct.
All right.
Well, is semantics at this point because we just don't know. Fair point though.
Now, Meki, you're right. We were talking before the show, in our pre-show meeting, and one of those things that came up was the Flight 19, where they talked about this weird fog, this cloud, it was all around us, and we don't know where we are anymore. Instrument flying is very important, and in a completely electronic plane, you can run into difficulties. But the planes themselves, this is a well-traveled flight path. There's visual cues all over the place in this area. They're flying in an altitude that isn't that removed from the coastline. They could easily just shift their direction and they'd end up somewhere. Immediately upon the flight going missing, hijacking came up, and the talks of there being hijackers and people in discussions with hijackers, and that didn't go anywhere, did it? Right?
No.
So we're talking about extremely well-trafficked areas. The planes that were at least 5 minutes behind it in the same airspace would have seen debris. The first pilots complained about cloud. No one else did. No one else requested going up or down, and yet this plane is gone.
Yep.
They say that they've put appliances out already to have a look for this plane. And they've obviously gone out and come back, refueled, gone out, come back, and they've found nothing. Remember that they have, on board all planes, tracking. So you'd have to do something extraordinary to turn off all of the tracking mechanisms.
It's a manual process which actually takes you to different parts of the plane.
And one is also beneath the cockpit. There's a floor pit you've got to open up and crawl down, and it's not easy. And if you didn't know where it was, you'd never find it. And there's still the telemetry from the engines is still being transmitted as well. So think about all those things when you start to listen to the debunkers already prevalent on the news, telling us, it's a weather phenomenon, probably crashed. What? They're already talking about, well, it's not 370, is it? Why isn't it 370? Why isn't it the same? They're very close to the same airspace. Why isn't there such a thing as the paranormal activity? Why did it? Maybe a portal in time opened up, and they went either backwards or forwards in time. Don't know. Maybe thousands of years.
I don't want you to dismiss this out of hand, guys. I know it sounds tinfoil heady.
It's tinfoil hat, all right.
But we know that the CTCs are closed time-like curves, and the Einstein-Rosen bridge are all allowed for in special and general relativity. Okay, so how they occur naturally, we can't even say. We don't know. We do know there's a naturally occurring uranium reactor in Africa, right? So that's just the critical mass of uranium is there. It naturally occurred. There it is, boom, right? We know that lemmings kill each other off, also themselves rather, when they reach a certain population size. And do wormholes occur, that connect different points in space and or time? Maybe, possibly. We certainly have investigated enough on this show and shared enough with you to certainly at least ask the question, at least wonder, I mean, there's a lot of things that don't make any sense unless you look at time travel or something like that. If maybe a portal is opening up. I mean, there's stories about the Bermuda Triangle. There are also stories about the Asian Devil's Triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, it's not in that area, okay? It's not. It's in the South China Sea. However, whoever set their stationary, I don't know what the rules are. This is a whole new physics, if it is new physics, okay? It's a whole new different thing. In fact, there's a whole bunch of stuff we'll talk about you today, which will connect it once again to quantum mechanics, even in the mind control field. But this is certainly something that, okay, we've got another plane missing. I'm looking here at the CNN website. the BBC website. I'm looking at the ABC, the Australian website. I'm looking at Russian TV as well. Okay, just because we need to know, cover everything's off. And all websites agree the plane is missing. It has gone missing. We don't know why. No distress signal has been sent from the missing plane. This came from Joko Murio Atmojo, Air Transportation Director at the Indonesian Transport Ministry. Okay, that's from Reuters. We don't know. The first officer had 2,200 flying hours, and the the captain had 6,100. Okay, these are all things that are being given to us
as they're trickle fed. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. So now and the status says it has landed now.
That's on the website, right?
Correct, but now, okay, so I'll read out to you what the statement says. Flight tracking resource Flight Radar 24 has asked users not to be deceived by the status landed assigned to flight QZ8501, as that is how missing planes are branded by the company's data provider. They don't say missing or
they don't say crashed.
Yeah. If it's gone, it's landed. Must have landed. It's no longer there, right? So, anyway.
So they've only got two statuses.
Yes. In the air or landed.
Yeah.
That's right. Everything else they probably can't do because of insurance. But the point here is all the news outlets agree the plane is no longer in contact and hasn't been for quite some time now.
That's right.
This is the key thing. So where is it? How come we're not tracking? How come nobody's tracking this? This is another thing that's just disappeared. Whoosh. Like MH370. Whoosh into thin air. Come on. This is the second plane in a very close area. Globally speaking, this is not across the world. This is a few hundred kilometers from where the other one disappeared.
Yeah, you know what's really weird is, like I said, the plane right before it. Let me just show you again. Take the time scale back, Meki. I'm taking it back to the point at which it disappeared, just for everyone's sake. I'm seeing if I can zoom in. I'm sorry, I can't really zoom in very much. Yeah, it's not really having much effect on the picture. Oh, there we go. That's probably the best I can get you. All right. So the point in the map that we can currently see is the point at which it looks like it's disappeared. And I'll just take it back time-wise, just one more jump. And hit play. All right, here we go. So like I showed Meki there's some 8 planes in a circle all around it, and the moment that air traffic controller lost that plane from radar, they would have called in the plane behind it to see if it could locate it. They would have seen from the other planes around that not 2 planes were lost, only 1, and that the plane that's shortly behind it would have been able to get an eyeball on it. Since they're probably travelling just a kilometre apart or 2 kilometres apart, usually their lane is a kilometre by kilometre, nearly a mile into and up and across, and it'll take you all the way to your destination. It's usually the lanes that Meki was talking about previously. So I think it quite an unusual event for a plane to go missing in high traffic. It's just like if the car in front of you disappeared as you were driving on the freeway.
Good. That's a great analogy. That's exactly what it's like. I mean, you go, whoa. And not only that, the car would disappear, and in the meantime, would have disabled the GPS, you would have disabled your radio, you would have seen the guy driving the car frantically at work, disabling all of his electronic equipment. I don't want to be flippant, but that's an excellent analogy. I want to quickly answer a question from the chat room. This was posted by Chindolo. Why Indonesia and why all these disappearances associated with Malaysia? Well, that's an excellent question, and the answer is, to some extent, Malaysia Air is actually associated with Asia. They're shareholders, I think. Is that right, Dave?
Mm-hmm. It's the same company. They own a number of airlines. Yeah.
Now, what are the politics here? Well, Malaysia is relatively independent, right? If globally speaking, and they are really not. They're not playing ball, if you will. Okay, they're quite obstructionist with the globalist agenda, and maybe this is just something to humble them. Maybe it's something to bring down the Malaysian economy. I don't know. I can tell you that Malaysia doesn't have too many great friends in the West. Don't forget also that it's a Muslim country. Okay, it's an Islamic country just as Indonesia is. Okay, so do you want to destabilize? And it's a peaceful Muslim country, and it's so as is Indonesia. These are, two very peaceful Islamic countries that have nothing to do with the strife that we see in the Middle East or Central Asia. Okay, you never hear anything really coming out of those. I mean, the Bali bombing was an aberration, I think, some years ago, but everything else, it's fairly quiet. I mean, there are separatists and there's some underground fighters and all that, but in the scheme of things, and both Malaysia and Indonesia are very, very safe up to this point for Western travelers. So, is someone trying to alienate them? I don't know. It's a good question, Chindolo. It's a very good question. Now,
do you know what that really is, Meki? Because maybe I'm going to just put it out there because I like to ask questions, and I like discussions to happen from those questions. Yeah, and one of those is maybe they're not playing ball.
Yeah,
they've lost 2 of the most expensive aircraft that they could own. MH17 and 370 already, and that pushed. Have you ever seen one of those gladiator programs, and there's a person up on a little tiny platform, and 30 meters down is water, and they're playing that stick game where they got to beat each other with padded sticks. Well, the first loss of the first plane was okay; it was sustainable. The second plane put the business and its insurance cost to the breaking point, and they offered 50% or 49% of that business stake to privateers to be able to rescue the business by selling it.
Yep.
That's how dangerously close they got to ruin. They're a pretty good plane company. They haven't had really anything like this. This is now, if we're looking at this, let's exclude MH17 for a minute. 2 planes going missing in a very similar area, and why can't we see them? Why was there, upon contact of water, one of the beacons immediately goes off because it is inundated with seawater. It closes the circuit, and it immediately starts pinging. Why can't they hear that? Why? Where did it go? For it to have disappeared off the planet like MH370, the only question that I'm going to raise with my tinfoil hat firmly upon my head, and for those who don't know how to fold one, here's the instructions. Seriously, why can't it be possible that they went forward or backwards in time? I'm saying it again, I'm saying it right here, right now on the radio, that the question has to be raised. Because, suddenly all of the people are throwing their opinions at the questioning of the pilot's ability, questioning the plane's ability, looking for similar incidences, and some of these are so ridiculous, Meki. They said, a DC-9 filled its engines up with hail and it fell out of the sky. When was that? 1970? Yeah, that's close. Close to the same model too, that, isn't it? A DC-9 and an A320?
Same.
Completely same. Yeah, you couldn't tell the silhouette, if you're a military observer.
It's the same as a pop gun and AK-47, same.
That's right, that's why we shot the school kid. Yeah. Listen,
now,
sorry, Meki, go ahead. It's all yours. The floor is yours. I'm standing off the platform.
No, you did well. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. I just wanted to raise one thing. Now, bear in mind, guys, that MH370 was the first plane that we lost in this fashion. The first one, okay? Since the invention of the black box and flight controllers and all these wonderful things. This is the second.
Yeah.
This is the second. Yeah? Okay, so this is not good. This is not a good trend. We don't want to go in that direction, okay?
Yeah, if we're trending this way, it's not going to be good. Just, the first plane to disappear, if it was as an anomaly, 2 of them, you have to seriously question what's going on. If there's a third one, that would halt the plane, airlines business for good. That would be it. There'd be too much panic and worry about the plane. I thought maybe there was a serious malfunction in this Airbus, in the skin possibly of it. Too many flights up and down, there's a crack forms and it just peels apart, but there's no debris. We would have seen debris, 370 would have been visible, and the engines wouldn't have run for another 4 hours.
That's right.
They don't tend to run underwater without fuel. So that's extraordinary. And I'm waiting to see if we hear any little tidbits from, say, Rolls-Royce or who's the other manufacturer of the engines. If we hear anything from them on this plane, because when we saw that in 370, they were first to post. Oh no, it was still flying. We had telemetry.
Mm-hmm. So there'd be Lockheed Martin, McDonnell Douglas, and also then Rolls-Royce are the three major ones. There are other manufacturers as well, of course, but those are the guys.
Well, no, they do make a good engine, I'll tell you. But yeah, it's to have two planes vanish using the word vanish. I think that means something. The Meki, you raised a great question. Who was on the plane? And I want to say, what was the cargo?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, good questions. And at this point, I can tell you what the manifest was. So there were 155 passengers, we know that, right? 149 Indonesians, 3 South Koreans, 1 Singaporean, 1 Malaysian, and 1 French. And there were 7 crew members, 2 pilots, obviously, and 5 cabin crew. Now, that's all we know. We don't know who they were or what they're doing. And I don't know what the cargo was, if there was any. I'm sure there's some cargo, right, Dave? I mean, again, these are the questions you have to ask. And again, was it maybe, again, we're out on the ledge here. There's an MO for the professional assassins around the world, of maybe for a team or a couple of teams, where they take out entire planes, trains, maybe city blocks to hit one person. Mm-hmm. It's the best way to assassinate someone, because obviously you don't know who was targeted. Obviously, it's just some kind of disaster or accident, whatever. So it's very difficult to establish motive, get any links happening. So was this an assassination? I'm not saying it was. I'm just, again, these are questions and we need to bring them up. Same for all the other plane accidents, so-called, that we hear about. Going right back to TWA 800, which is in fact linked to today's show as well, believe it or not.
Awesome. You see, and Meki, just as a beautiful segue, just be careful of the mind control that the media are immediately asserting in this case. I've asked questions. I haven't said anything categorically. We showed the same thing that the news are showing, except the only thing is, I think we're open to more. And the people who are debunking it currently are just, I don't give them any credibility, because they're not in the plane. If only they let us use our cell phones, in the air, and surf the net and post on Facebook, because we'd probably know more than what we're getting at the moment. There'd be some relative somewhere that had a photo of something.
Yeah, somebody from the chat room, sorry, this is RD47,
yes.
Thank you, RD47, has just posted that the Chinese television has reported wreckage. Now, it hasn't been confirmed by Asia, but as this news comes in, we'll keep you updated as well. So Chinese TV reported wreckage of the plane had been found east of Belitung Island, which is sort of halfway between Subayara and Singapore.
Okay, so I think I've got a graphic. Oh, no, I don't have a graphic of that anymore. Sorry, guys. I thought I did. Yeah, don't. That's okay. Well, look, we'll see what happens, and we'll keep you informed if we hear any more through the show. So, Meki, mind control, huh?
Yeah, we started this last week, and as much as we can today is a lot, but I think we can. And yes, and look. Last week we shared with you the methods of mind control, definition of mind control, and so forth. Also, famous mind control, incidences, if you will, or subliminal messaging. Right? We shared that with you. It's there. We can also tell you that it, in fact, did happen. And this is a little bit later in the show. The Church Commission. Or committee, I should say, the Church Committee that was convened back in the 70s, and then subsequent releases of documents in 2001 have shown us that the US government did in fact engage in mind control experiments. Okay, we'll get into some detail here later in the show, but this is no longer a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy fact. The US government did engage in mind control experiments, full stop. You can't run from it. It's like releasing the torture report. It's not a conspiracy theory that the U.S. government in Abu Ghraib, in Guantanamo, and in undisclosed locations engaged in torture on a massive scale. It's now a fact. It's a conspiracy fact. Okay, and you no longer have to argue for it. You just say, no, here's the evidence. You can become a debunker. No, just go and look over there. Just look over here. Look over there. Nothing up my sleeve. Because it is a fact. Now, without further ado, though,
Mickey, wait.
Go ahead. Yeah,
I said the same thing about drugs in sport, and everyone laughed at me. And then suddenly there's the news story about drugs in sport, game match fixing, and the whole business. And all my friends, oh no, they wouldn't do that. And then the very people they were defending were all busted for doing the wrong thing. Where is the people who have said that they performed these torturous activities, which of course as we know, the Geneva Convention only protects people in wartime or who are in, participating in the war, but the human rights, I forget the term for it. There's human rights which still prevent you, whether you're not in war or otherwise, to be protected from, and torture is classified as a minimum humiliation. Humiliation is torture, as well as deprivation. That's either of food or resources or sunlight, being locked in confinement. All of those still contravene. Not talking about the Geneva Convention, because some of these people weren't actually fighting when they picked them up.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
And being held indefinitely is also a form of torture. All of these things, and our government's guilty of the same thing when it comes to asylum seekers. However,
completely, yeah.
However, Meki, where's the outcome? Yeah, you sure you can have some U.S. general? I know, where the U.S. general on TV saying, "Yeah, we tortured a whole bunch of people, huh?" That's
how
it.
about that?
That's the end of the story. Yeah, how about them apples?
Yeah. Now, look, this is incredible. I mean, because when this first broke, the news, when this report was released, the question was raised: well, is anybody going to be indicted over this? Is anybody going to court? Are we going to see some convictions?
No.
And the general consensus was, no, we're not, because we have I don't think Obama wants to take this to court or whatever. I mean, there's a good case for Cheney and Rumsfeld to be indicted here, right? I'm not saying George Bush Jr. knew. He didn't know very many things. He might have known this.
Shoelaces.
Yeah, there's that, right?
Yeah.
Now, so the question is, where are the consequences here? This is no longer a theory. It is now a hard fact. The report has been released. We know that thousands of people have been tortured, horrendously, in fact. Death threats. I mean, if any of you, and Dave and I, were subjected to this, I don't know how well we would stand up to that. I don't know, how well we would survive it. And it's something that, as a human, we obviously haven't moved beyond it, as the human race. But if America and the Western coalition wants to retain the moral high ground, we cannot stoop down to the level of, this is what they're coming from, right? This is what they're saying, right? We cannot stoop down to the same alleged methods of our enemies, right? I mean, if the Nazis were fought in World War II under the the banner of democracy and freedom and so forth, which is all goodness, against a totalitarian regime, I will argue with no one that the Nazis of Germany were totalitarian. Of course they are. And were, I should say. Well, they still are there in the Fourth Reich in the US, but that's a whole different thing. But so that's there was a vantage, there was a moral vantage point, and I get it, right? Now that is so swiftly eroded, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
If the United States, the beacon of a democracy of light, as they portray themselves, stoop to those methods, and I don't care how they legalize it, because that doesn't matter. Okay, because these are facts, and you can dress it up legally any which way, or they were unlawful combatants. The Guantanamo Bay and Abu Ghraib and the other rendition centers weren't really part of the U.S. Judiciary system. And
what was that? Rendition centers.
The rendition centers. That's right.
And
torture. They were everywhere.
Torture. That's like the. I'm not going to put it there. It's like the showers in the concentration camp. All I can say, Meki, you're absolutely right. If it doesn't matter how you dressed it, it's still a crime.
Yeah, completely.
And why aren't people, being held accountable for it? And that's because those people who make the rules are the ones who are accountable, and they all knew what was going on, and yet, too big to fail, they're not allowed to come down.
Yeah, that's right.
And look, you're right, Mickey. If we found out that hostages had been taken in a foreign land of ours, and they were being tortured,
yep,
there'd be an uproar.
Yeah.
And complete uproar.
Well, you'd hope so, at least, right?
Yeah, I know. Well, for a minute, for the 2 minutes 30 that the news story ran for, and then it would just be back to doing the ironing or picking up the kids. And this is, I think, sad. This is what we're seeing.
It is.
So once again, mind control. Great
mind
example,
control.
isn't
Absolutely. It is, absolutely. And look, guys, there's a lot in this that is speculation. But as I said earlier, it's now a fact that it actually happened, and I would argue it still is happening, and we're going to talk about that as well. The parallels we see today. So, without further ado, let's go to the most famous one. And then we also have a list which Dave and I will take in turn, of course, as well. So the Montauk Project is probably the most famous amongst conspiracy theorists. Even if you have not really been into this kind of conspiracy before, you would have heard of the Montauk Project. Montauk itself is, believe it or not, right near New York City. Okay, it is in fact not very far from the Hamptons, where the rich and famous like to frolic. Okay, now it's an alleged series of secret They do frolic. Of secret United States government projects conducted at Camp Hero or Montauk Air Force Station at Montauk, which is on Long Island, for the purpose of developing psychological warfare techniques and exotic research, including time travel. Yes, you heard it, time travel. Jacques Vallée describes allegations of the Montauk Project as an outgrowth of stories about the Philadelphia experiment. And yes, there is a link, and the link was established by Preston Nichols, together with Peter Moon, who wrote a number of Montauk Project books, if you will, and their experiences, or Preston Nichols' experiences, because he was associated with that particular project. Now, the conspiracy theories about the Montauk Project have circulated since the early 1980s. Okay, and having said that, though, MK Ultra goes back to the 1960s, but we'll get to that. According to UFO researcher Jacques Vallée, as I said earlier, he traces that back to Preston Nichols, who claimed to have recovered repressed memories of his own involvement. American Preston B. Nichols, who was born May 24, 1946 in Long Island, so he's a native, claims to have degrees in parapsychology, psychology, and electrical engineering. He authored a series of books, as we said, known as the Montauk Project series. And these center on topics including United States government military experiments and fields such as time travel, teleportation, mind control, contact with alien life, and staging faked Apollo moon landings. Right, so there you go. This is right along our lines of reasoning and thinking here.
I love it.
Now, it was also framed as a development which followed a successful 1943 Philadelphia experiment. We've spoken about this, okay? Now, these culminated, all these projects and experiments culminated in a hole allegedly ripped in space-time in 1983. If you've seen the movie Philadelphia Experiment, you know what I'm talking about. Now, experiments began in earnest in the early 1970s. Okay, and during this time, some, or all of the following are claimed to have occurred at the site. And Dave is just showing you pictures there of Montauk, the actual area there. Now, the first one, the facility was expanded to as many as 12 levels and several hundred workers without anyone in the town noticing the tons of building materials or hundreds of workers required. Some reports have the facility extending under the town of Montauk itself. Dave?
Yes, exactly. Yes. That's exactly where they were. Hang on, I'm trying to send her a picture. Oh, it's not doing you any justice. There we go. Goodness me. Okay, so
on page 9, homeless people were abducted,
homeless people,
and subjected to huge amounts of electromagnetic radiation. Few survived.
Oh yes, there you go. People had their psychic abilities enhanced to the point where they could materialize objects out of thin air. Stuart Swerdlow claims to have been involved in the Montauk Project, and as a result, he says, his psionic faculties were boosted but at the cost of emotional instability, post-traumatic stress disorder, and other issues.
Experiments were also conducted in teleportation.
I like this one. A porthole in time was created which allowed researchers to travel anywhere in time or space. This was developed into a stable time tunnel, hence the show of the equivalent name, Time Tunnel.
Correct. A contact was made with alien extraterrestrials through the time tunnel, and technology was exchanged with them which enhanced the project. This allowed broader access to hyperspace.
Well, I love this. Jeez, I would have loved to have worked there. An alien monster travelled through the time tunnel, destroyed equipment, and devoured researchers. The tunnel was shut down and the creature destroyed. I've actually got a picture of the time traveller.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's not centered though. Hang on. There we go.
How many movie ideas are here? This is just brilliant. Now, mind control experiments were conducted, and runaway boys were abducted and brought out to the base, where they underwent excruciating periods of both physical and mental torture. You have to remember this, in order to break their minds. Then their minds were reprogrammed. Now, it's very important to remember the torture aspect of this, both mental and physical. Many were supposedly killed during the process and buried on the site.
Wow. On or about August 12th, 1983, geez, I was over in the US then, the time travel project at Camp Hero interlocked in hyperspace with the original Rainbow project back in 1943. The USS Eldridge was drawn into hyperspace and trapped there. Two men, Al Bielek and Duncan Cameron, both claimed to have leapt from the deck of the Eldridge while it was in hyperspace and ended up after a period of severe disorientation at Camp Hero in the year 1983. Here they claim to have met John von Neumann, a famous physicist and mathematician, even though he was known to have died in 1957. Von Neumann had supposedly worked on the original Philadelphia experiment, but the US Navy denies this. Well, no surprise there.
That's a shock. The staff from the Camp Hero site traveled to the USS Eldridge and shut down the generators, causing the ship to return to Philadelphia Naval Yard in 1943 and causing the time tunnel to collapse.
Wow. Metahumans and experiments in special serums to create such individuals were tested there.
After the experiments were completed, or the destruction of the facility, depending on which story one reads, the facility was closed for good. All the staff were brainwashed, shot, or sworn to absolute secrecy, and all records destroyed. According to some stories, research continues at the site to this day with enhanced security. We will talk about this later, of course. Now, Peter Moon is, of course, the gentleman who worked with Preston Nichols to write those books, and this is we're going to quote from him now to some extent. The origins of this bizarre operation date back to 1943, when invisibility experiments were conducted aboard the USS Eldridge. Okay, the objective of the experiment was to make the ship undetectable to radar, and while that was achieved, there was a totally unexpected and drastic side effect. The ship did become invisible, but it was also removed from time and space as we know it. Also, this was a remarkable breakthrough in terms of technology. It was a catastrophe to the people involved. Essentially, not very many people survived, and those that did were discharged as mentally unfit or otherwise discredited, and the entire affair was covered up. After the war, research continued under the tutelage of Dr. John von Neumann, who had directed the technical aspects of the Philadelphia experiment. Now, I think at this point it is important to actually look at who John or Johann von Neumann really was. He was born December 28, 1903 and allegedly died February 8, 1957 at the age of 54. He was an Austrian-Hungarian and later American, pure and applied mathematician, physicist, inventor, and polymath. Okay, this guy was actually like some serious heavy hitter. He made major contributions to a number of fields, including mathematics, foundations of mathematics, functional analysis, ergodic theory, geometry, topology, and numerical analysis, physics, quantum mechanics, hydrodynamics, and fluid dynamics, economics, game theory. He actually invented game theory, computing, von Neumann architecture, you might have heard this, linear programming, self-replicating machines, stochastic computing, and statistics. He was a pioneer of the application of operator theory to quantum mechanics. Very important. I actually read up on this, fascinating stuff. In the development of functional analysis, the principal member of the Manhattan Project and the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, is one of the few originally appointed, and a key figure in the development of game theory and the concepts of cellular automata, the universal constructor, and the digital computer. Now, he was part of the Manhattan Project. He was the expert in shaped charges, like the mathematics of shaped charges. You know, he actually invented the whole thing, the mathematics of it, because it's very difficult to to describe explosions mathematically, but he did it. So he was a heavy hitter. Now, if you had to pick somebody to run a mind control program, or I guess it wasn't just mind control guys, because obviously Montauk and even MK Ultra and other things we talked about, including time travel from last few shows, you want heavy hitters in there. You want the best scientific minds you can get. And von Neumann here clearly was that. Do yourself a favor, read up on him. Now, his new orders were to find out what made the mind of a man tick, and why people could not be subjected to interdimensional phenomena without disaster. So it was an outgrowth of the, failed Philadelphia experiment. All right, a massive human factor study was begun at Brookhaven National Laboratories on Long Island. Brookhaven Labs got its start after World War II as the first major atomic research facility in the world. So Brookhaven Labs, once again, is a real place. Now, prior to the war, this is interesting, the immediate area had served as the headquarters for the largest contingent of Nazis in the United States. They were known as the Bund prior to the war. Okay? All right, that's where they congregated. Nice area. John von Neumann was a logical choice, obviously, to head this up, because he was a genius, and he could also draw on enormous resources of the now, burgeoning military-industrial complex. He worked on the Manhattan Project. I repeat again. He was at Princeton with Einstein. Now, these included the resources, vast databases of Nazi psychological research acquired by the Allies after World War II. Remember Operation Paperclip? Yes, you do.
I do.
It was against this. I know you do, buddy. It was against this background that von Neumann attempted to couple computer technology with sophisticated radio equipment in an attempt to link people's minds with machines. Yeah. Over time, his efforts were quite successful. After several years of empirical experimentation, human thoughts could eventually be received by esoteric crystal radio receivers and relayed into a computer, which would store the thoughts in terms of information bits. These thought patterns could then in turn be displayed on a computer and even be printed out on a piece of paper. We're going to talk to Solaris next week around the, machinization of mind control and how AIs seem to be running this now. She's got a fantastic insight there, guys, so please don't miss that. And obviously, this is where we'll be going. It's impossible for people to monitor people, right? You can't. You need a machine to do that. Now, these principles were developed and the techniques were enhanced until a virtual mind-reading machine was constructed. At the same time, a technology was developed so that a psychic, a human being still, could think a thought which would be transmitted out a computer and potentially affect the mind of another human being. There's a fascinating article we're going to share with you at the end of the show cycle. This has recently come to press, I think, in the last 2 weeks, which talks exactly about that. Mind-to-mind link via machine. And this is no longer in the realm of science fiction, this is now real. Ultimately, the Montauk project obtained a superior understanding of how the mind functions and achieved the sinister potential for mind control. This is where it gets interesting. A full report was made to Congress, who in turn ordered the project to be disbanded, at least in part, for fear of having their own minds controlled, right? But this is where the military-industrial complex comes in. Private concerns helped develop the project, and they did not follow the dictate of Congress, but rather went ahead and kept funding the project. A secret group with deep financial resources and some sort of military tie decided they would establish a new research facility at Camp Hero, which was a derelict Air Force station at Montauk Point in New York. This locale was chosen because it housed a huge SAGE radar antenna that emitted a frequency of approximately 400 to 425 megahertz. Coincidentally, the same band used to enter the consciousness of the human mind. Boom! In the late 60s, the reactivation of Camp Hero began despite no funding from the military. By 1972, the Montauk Project was fully underway, with massive mind control experimentation being undertaken upon humans, animals, and other forms of consciousness that were deemed to exist. Okay, now what they did, they also pushed out human potential, and that included the virtual creation of matter. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with the 19th century seances, Dave. I don't know if you recall the pictures where protoplasm would just manifest, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was this substance, some call it like, I guess, a fairy jelly or something, which would be there, and then it would vanish after a little while, but it would just manifest. And sometimes forms or shapes or things or people would manifest out of that protoplasm as well. Now, it seems that this may have been taken to the whole different level. Now, bear in mind that these are people that worked very closely or very intimately with relativity as well as quantum mechanics. Now, if there's one thing that we've learned from quantum mechanics, is that yes, we as the observer influence reality. What does that mean? In the final analysis, it means we create the world around us. It is a small step to break, I guess, consensus reality and then create your own reality. So you just manifest things. Okay, you just, I'll feel like a sandwich. You manifest a sandwich. It is no different from actually baking it and, then cutting the bread and so forth. You're just skipping the steps. But if we're truly living in a quantum form, if you will, in a quantum universe, then our mind creates it around us all the time. Okay, so I just want to quickly, get your mind right there. Now, once it was discovered that the psychic could manifest matter, it was observed that the manifestation could appear at different times, depending upon what the psychic was thinking. Thus, what would happen if a psychic thought of a book, thought of it appearing yesterday? It was this kind of thinking that eventually led to the time experiments as well, and I think that ties in with the Nazi bell as well. So now apparently, they succeeded to open those time portals, and massive and outrageous experiments were conducted. Okay, this is Montauk, guys. This is the most famous one. All I've read to you is entirely debunked by every debunker in the world. Okay, none of this is real as far as they're concerned. Now, I don't know. I really don't know. But there's a lot of stuff in here which rings true, which makes it at least worthwhile looking at. Okay. We do have, however, the CIA mind control program, and that's verified by the Church Committee. Largely in response to alleged Soviet, Chinese, and North Korean use of mind control techniques on US prisoners of war in Korea, the CIA created its own secret mind control program in the 1950s. The CIA wanted to experiment with similar methods on their own captives. Forensic psychologist Dick Anthony concluded that the CIA had invented the concept of brainwashing as a propaganda strategy to undercut communist claims that American POWs in Korean communist camps had voluntarily expressed sympathy for communism. Okay, now that's what he thought. He argued that the books of Edward Hunter, whom he identified as a secret CIA psychological warfare specialist, passing as a journalist, pushed the CIA brainwashing theory onto the general public. Succumbing to their own propaganda for 20 years, starting in the early 1950s, the CIA and the Defense Department conducted secret research, and that's the Project MK-Ultra, in an attempt to develop practical brainwashing techniques. The results, at this point, are unknown. Okay, now, we've got a few more minutes, so I think I can get through this. Sometimes referred to as the CIA's mind control program, MK-Ultra was the codename given to an illegal and clandestine program of experiments on human beings made by the CIA. The nature of the research included these specific problems. Can we create, by post-hypnotic control, an action contrary to an individual's basic moral principles? I.e., can we make them do something we want them to do and they wouldn't do? Can we alter a person's personality? Can we guarantee total amnesia under any and all conditions? Could we seize a subject and in the space of an hour, by post-hypnotic control, have him or her crash an airplane? Ooh, that's very timely. Can we devise a system for making unwilling subjects into willing agents and then transfer their control to untrained agency agents in the field by use of codes or identifying signs? The answer is probably. The methods. This is important. This is very, very important. So I want to get through this very quickly. CIA documents suggest that chemical, biological, and radiological means were investigated for the purposes of mind control. A secret memorandum granted MK-Ultra a director up to 6% of the CIA research budget in the fiscal year of 1953. Okay, that's about $10 million US, and that's about 87.5 million today. Okay, so that was how much was spent, and there was no accounting and no oversight. Experiments on humans were intended to identify and develop drugs and procedures to be used in integration and torture in order to weaken the individual to force confessions through mind control. Organized through the Scientific Intelligence Division (SID) of the CIA, the project coordinated with the Special Operations Division of the U.S. Army's Chemical Corps. The program began in the 1950s and was officially sanctioned in 1953. It was reduced in scope in 1964, further curtailed in 1967, and officially halted in 1973 in response to the Church Committee. The program engaged in many illegal activities. In particular, it used unwitting US and Canadian citizens as its test subjects, which led to controversy regarding its legitimacy. Okay, what did they use? They used people's... they used to... LSD, okay, other chemicals as well, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, verbal and sexual abuse, as well as other forms of torture. Now, just quickly before the break, guys, does this at all sound familiar in light of recent events?
Oh, yes.
The release of the torture report, maybe, Dave? Yeah?
It does. I still am having a difficulty joining mental, physical, and deprivation, sexual abuse as well. From the handler, let's say the CIA handler, continues to abuse the person, saying, "I want to go back in time," and slaps them. I want to go back in time. Slap. Take me back in time. Slap. I'm not sure how effective that kind of thing would be.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, we're actually going to talk a little bit more about what they did, but what they did is essentially they would be tortured and subjected to all this, horrible treatment, and then a person would come and be the savior.
Of course. You break them down and rebuild them, yes.
Correct. And that person would then be the handler, and that the handling could then be transferred to others. But look at today. Look at all the torture that went on. We know that, in fact, any military person worth their salt knows that you cannot obtain any good information, any good intelligence through torture. Not going to happen.
I will sing like a bird if tortured. I'll tell them whatever they want.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
If it stops the torture...
Yeah. The information would be completely unactionable. Right? There'd be no lives saved. In fact, the CIA keeps saying we saved lives. No, you did not. This smacks to me as an extension, as a massive extension of the mind control experiments. Yes. They had the subjects. I mean, we've got thousands of prisoners of war, which they weren't, that we can use. They have no legal status. We can do to them whatever we want. Fantastic. Let's see. We can maybe can splice them into MK Ultra. Let's see if you've learned anything more, because everything here, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, verbal and sexual abuse, and other forms of torture, waterboarding. That's exactly what happened in Abu Ghraib. That's exactly what happened in Guantanamo Bay.
That's right.
Okay, they were not protected by any law or convention. It was very convenient.
A urine-soaked Hessian bag over your head.
Yeah.
Worn
completely.
For weeks. Ew.
Yeah. I might. And there's the music. Don't go away, guys. And please donate.
On that bombshell, we'll see you after the break. Please use the time to donate. This is listener funded.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
This This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
There is no denying the world is awakening. We see it in the global uprisings and demonstrations of the people around the planet and the new way of thinking and living that is arising naturally within each one of us and our communities. I have been a major player in this global shift and movement for over 20 years and have helped tens of thousands of people around the world change their lives and find their voice in order to help create the paradigm change we so desperately need. Join me here at Revolution Radio on the Just Bernard Show every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time for 2 hours of powerful interviews and discussion with some of the most influential visionaries of consciousness, alternative media, and suppressed knowledge. We promise to reveal the real matrix and empower your human experience.
Hello and welcome to Revolution Radio here at freedomslips.com, the number one listener-supported internet radio station in the world. So, want to ask you, do you have a favorite host or several here at Revolution Radio? Don't have the time to catch every show when it's live? Well, you can get all the shows to your favorite host for the year 2014 on one data DVD, so you can play on your preferred device at any time. The cost, just $30 plus shipping. Now, remember, I'm just one guy, so allow up to 2 weeks or 10 business days for delivery. Also, the hosts themselves get half of the net proceeds. So not only are you supporting Revolution Radio, you're supporting your favorite host as well. So just go to our homepage and click the banner that says your favorite show. It's just down. It's easy to find. Big old letters. Anyway, so thank you. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps. We are taking pre-orders for the 2014 and we'll start shipping after.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
On the go? Still want to listen? Don't have one of those fancy phones with too many buttons. Don't know what an app is? Or you don't even care? Well, we got you here at Revolution Radio. Now you can dial in 24/7 to listen to our shows. We have a number for Studio A and Studio B, and best of all, it's free. Don't forget, your carrier charges for your cell phone provider may apply though, so check with your cell provider to make sure. So ready? Here you go. Get a pen. Here's the number. Studio A is 712-432-6958, and Studio B is 716-748-0112. Thank you very much for listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the number one listener-supported radio station in the world. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
And welcome back to the second half of Dave and Mackie's Shiny Side Out, show number 148, 8, 40, and 100, too shy of 150, believe it or not. And we are talking about mind control, and just want to reiterate the point of the donation. Please, and I can hear some folding going on in the background as well. Please donate if you can. This station is supported by the listeners. It's a little bit short of its monthly goal. If you're in the chat room, the donate button is on the left-hand side. Just click on it. You can make a one-time donation as well, if you wish. And if you like what you hear, why not? I mean, Coca-Cola is not sponsoring this. Okay, nor is Pepsi or anybody else, right? So you get to hear whatever we want to say. And that's awesome. And if you want to listen, you can. You're not being forced to. But we will tell you things you might not hear otherwise. Not just us, not just Dave and I, but all the shows on this great station. Now, Dave, did I hear folding in the background?
You sure did. You know what? I'm wearing my tinfoil hat. This is a tinfoil hat zone right now. I'm going to tell you right here, right now, right on the radio, right now. I'm telling you, this is a tinfoil hat zone. And there you go, Mickey. How's that?
Very. Look, it's very fetching.
Well, you know, it's heating my head up, so I'm not sure I can keep it on that long. I do live in a Faraday cage, I keep telling everyone.
That's hilarious.
Look, this second half of this show, this next hour, I'd like everyone to hashtag MKUltra. Okay? Hashtag tweet, hashtag MKUltra. Those who know what tweets mean or are, go ahead and do that, and well, I'll be looking at the information coming in. Now, comment all you like. Next, since it is a tinfoil hat zone, Meki has a warning for you.
Make sure your tinfoil hat is firmly on top of your cranium, you're strapped into your reality suspension module, and keep your arms inside the ride at all times. Thank you.
No flash photography.
Of course.
Paparazzo! Okay, so Dr. Joseph Mengele. He's a little notorious, isn't he, Mackie? Let me just. I've got the hat on for this reason, because this is tinfoil hat zone interlude: controversial origins of the methodology, and I've got a wanted poster up that the US had out at some point. Rewards $2,375,000 out for Dr. Joseph Mengele. They were looking for him. Clearly, I want to know who makes those numbers up, because, you know, is it that important? Maybe it was. Okay, so Dr. Joseph Mengele, an Auschwitz notoriety, was the principal developer of the trauma-based Monarch project and the CIA's MKUltra mind control programs. Mengele and approximately 5,000 other high-ranking Nazis were secretly moved into the United States and South America in the aftermath of World War II in an operation designated Paperclip. We all know about that. Mackie, I'm going to say all our peeps know. I said the word peeps. Oh, wait, that's funny. That's funny right there. Okay, the Nazis continued their work in developing mind control and rocketry technologies in secret underground military bases. The only thing we were told about was the rocketry work with former Nazi star celebrities like Werner von Braun. The killers, torturers, and mutilators of the innocent human beings were kept discreetly out of sight, but busy in US underground military facilities, which gradually became home to thousands upon thousands of kidnapped American children, snatched off the streets, about 1 million per year, and placed into iron bar cages stacked from floor to ceiling as part of the training. These children would be used to further refine and perfect Mengele's mind control technologies. Certain selected children, at least the ones who survived the training, would become future mind-controlled slaves who could be used for thousands of different jobs, ranging from anywhere from sexual slavery to assassinations. And the 7 keep coming up to mind, Mickey.
Absolutely.
There's a substantial portion of these children who were considered expendable were intentionally slaughtered in front of and by the other children in order to traumatize the selected trainee into total compliance and submission.
Now, before you go ahead and dismiss this, Dr. Mengele, he was in fact a dentist, and he was the doctor, the camp doctor at Auschwitz, and he did perform a multitude of experiments. In his specific favorite was twin studies. So he loved to see what happens to twins. He also performed operations, being a dentist, okay, without anesthesia. He removed organs, he removed limbs. He was horrific. The movie The Marathon Man is based on him. or his survival, I should say. So if you haven't seen The Marathon Man, it's a classic with Dustin Hoffman. I recommend it highly. Watch it. It is important to understand that this Mengele is a real guy. He probably was smuggled out under Operation Paperclip. He did conduct a whole bunch of experiments. Now, look at the things that are happening. Look at the brutality with which we go up against our fellow men and women. And one more thing. Okay, if you think that people don't do these things to children, go and look into the Central African Republic. Go and look at Somalia, where you have boy soldiers and sometimes girls as well. Okay, now they are being taught to kill at the age of 8, 10, 12, as soon as they can hold an AK-47, and they're made to kill either family members, as they're abducted, or other children. It is meant to brutalize them into becoming, thoughtless killing machines, and they're being quite successful here. So don't think that this doesn't happen. Don't think, we would never do this. Guys, wake up! This is exactly what's happening. Okay. Now, there are also mind-altering substances that were being used, and Dave will take and I will take these in turn here. One 1955 MK Ultra document gives an indication of the size and range of the effort. And this document refers to the study of an assortment of mind-altering substances, and they were described as follows. Number 1, substances which will promote illogical thinking and impulsiveness to the point where the recipient would be discredited in public.
Wow. Substances, now this is the criteria for the substances. Substances which increase the efficiency of mentation and perception.
Yep. Materials which will cause the victim to age faster, slower, in maturity.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right?
I know. Materials which will promote the intoxicating effect of alcohol.
Materials which will produce the signs and symptoms of recognized diseases in a reversible way so that they may be used for malingering and so on. So, you can actually use these to force somebody to do something and then give them the antidote.
Oh, I like that. Well, I'm not an evil Dr. Mengele, but I like where they're going with this. Materials which will cause temporary / permanent brain damage and loss of memory.
Substances which will enhance the ability of individuals to withstand privation, torture, and coercion during interrogation and so-called brainwashing.
Number 8, materials and physical methods which will produce amnesia for events preceding and during their use.
Physical methods of producing shock and confusion over extended periods of time and capable of surreptitious use.
Ooh. Number 10, substances which produce physical disablement, such as paralysis of the legs, acute anemia, etc.
Substances which will produce a chemical that can cause blisters.
Well,
you think?
I know.
Of all the evil things,
yeah.
Substances which can give you paper cuts.
Paper. Number 12, substances which alter personality structure in such a way that the tendency of the recipient to become dependent upon another person is enhanced.
Bottled Stockholm syndrome. A material which will cause mental confusion of such a type that the individual under its influence will find it difficult to maintain a fabrication under questioning. So you can't lie.
Yeah, I understand that. That's Meki, this sounds like advertising to me. Substances which will lower the ambition and general working efficiency of men when administered in undetectable amounts.
That's good on an enemy population, I guess. Substances which promote weakness or distortion of the eyesight or hearing faculties, preferably without permanent effects.
Wow, so they wear off. Wow.
Yeah.
A knockout pill which can surreptitiously be administered in drinks, food, cigarettes, as an aerosol, etc., which will be safe to use, provide a maximum of amnesia, and be suitable for use by agent types on an ad hoc basis. Sort of like Easy P.
Yeah, absolutely. If you were captured and you took that, you actually couldn't divulge anything, could you?
That's right.
Fascinating stuff. Now, finally, a material which can be surreptitiously administered by the above routes, and which in very small amounts will make it impossible for a person to perform physical activity. Now, these are fairly specific things they're trying to do here. Some of them good, being able to withstand torture, I guess, is one good one. But
you know what? If you took that and someone was torturing you, they'd torture you more.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, that's the thing, though. I mean, this is fairly detailed information, guys. What else happened? Now, the CIA operated through these institutions using front organizations. Okay, although sometimes top officials at these institutions were aware of the CIA's involvement. So, what institutions am I talking about here? Now, this is talking about the extent of the participation in this particular program. It was a very broad program. Okay, and the research was undertaken at 44 American colleges and universities. Okay, as well as 15 research foundations and chemical and pharmaceutical companies, including, now I'm naming names, Sandoz, which is now Novartis, and Eli Lilly. Okay, 12 hospitals and clinics, in addition to those associated with universities, and 3 prisons are also known to have participated in MK Ultra. Okay, so this is how this wasn't just some laboratory somewhere in the woods. No. This was across the landscape of the American, I guess, middle class worldview, the society, if you will. 44 universities, 15 research foundations, 12 hospitals, 3 prisons. Come on, guys. Okay, this is what we know. And then who knows where it is today?
Huh.
Now, yeah, exactly, right, Dave? I mean, this is crazy stuff. Now, these are the official findings we're going to share with you. I'm going to abridge them a little because there's a lot of them and they're part of the show notes. The Supreme Court later noted that MK Ultra was concerned with the research and development of chemical, biological, and radiological materials capable of employment in clandestine operations to control human behavior. Full stop. Mission statement. Thank you very much. Okay, this is what we're doing here. Control human behavior through any means possible. Okay? It consisted of 149 sub-projects. Okay? Yeah. Which the agency contracted out to various universities, research foundations, and similar institutions. Okay, like we said earlier, at least 80 institutions and 185 private researchers participated. Okay, because the agency funded MK Ultra indirectly, many of the participating individuals were unaware that they were dealing with the CIA. The first time it was brought to public attention was in 1975 by the Church Committee of the U.S. Congress and the Gerald Ford Commission to investigate CIA activities within the United States. You have to remember the CIA activities. The CIA is chartered for activities outside the United States, not within. That's the Secret Service. CIA outside, Secret Service inside. Okay, so it's anyway. Now the investigation was hampered by the fact that then CIA Director Richard Helms ordered all MK Ultra files destroyed in 1973. And do we know why? Yes, we do. I'll tell you why. Because they were spooked by Watergate.
Okay. I bet those shredders were busy.
Oh, they were going, boy. They were going. Okay, so
that was the Oliver North and Fawn Hall brand of shredders. It was quite popular.
Absolutely. So that, of course, makes a full investigation of MK Ultra impossible. So what we're telling you here is what survived. Now, the vast majority of the documents regarding this project were destroyed. The vast majority, okay? However, a cache of some 20,000 documents survived this destruction because they were incorrectly stored in the Financial Records Building.
Right, yes.
Right? And they were discovered following an investigation or a Freedom of Information Act in 1977.
That was Helms' Purge, wasn't it?
Correct, sir. That's exactly right. Now, in December of 1974, the New York Times alleged that the CIA had conducted illegal domestic activities, okay, because they're not chartered to do that, including experiments on U.S. citizens during the 1960s. Okay, and that then led to the Church Committee, which we just discussed.
And those experiments, including the same chemicals and radioactivity and a whole bunch of things in major cities, including Detroit.
That is correct. That's exactly right. Okay, so we have, what we have here? We've got psychoactive drugs such as LSD, mescaline, other chemicals, biological and psychological means. Okay, this all came out in the Church Committee. They also revealed that at least one subject had died after the administration of LSD, so we can at least tie one death to this. I'll be astonished if that's the only one, to be honest, though. Now, much of what the Church Committee and the Rockefeller Commission learned, because there was a Rockefeller Commission that was later done for the president, and was contained in a report prepared by the Inspector General's office in 1963 that had survived the destruction of records in 1973. Okay. However, it contained little detail. Sidney Gottlieb, who had retired from the CIA 2 years previously, was interviewed by the committee, but claimed to have very little recollection of the activities of MKUltra. I have no specific recollections. No, I never had relations with this woman. Yeah, okay then. The Congressional Committee investigating the CIA research, chaired by Senator Frank Church, hence, Church Committee, concluded that prior consent was obviously not obtained from any of the subjects. Okay, the committee noted that the experiments sponsored by the researchers call into question the decision by the agencies not to fix guidelines for the experiments. So essentially, do whatever you want to do what we need you to do. Okay? That is not a good thing, guys, ever. Following the recommendations of the Church Committee, President Gerald Ford in 1976 issued the first executive order on intelligence activities, which, among other things, prohibited experimentation with drugs on human subjects except with the informed consent, in writing and witnessed by a disinterested party, of each such human subject. Subsequent orders by Presidents Carter and Reagan expanded the directive to apply to any human experimentation. What are we seeing at Abu Ghraib today? What are we seeing at Guantanamo Bay today? It's torture, but I think it's experimentation on people. Okay? Mm-hmm. In 1977, during a hearing held by the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence to look further into MKUltra, Admiral Stansfield Turner, then the director of the CIA, revealed that the CIA had found a set of records consisting of about 20,000 pages that had survived the destruction. So that's how we got our information. Okay. On the Senate floor in 1977, Senator Ted Kennedy said the following. Ted Kennedy, right, the brother. The deputy director of the CIA revealed that over 30 universities and institutions were involved in an extensive testing and experimentation program which included covert drug tests on unwitting citizens at all social levels, Native American and foreign. Several of these tests involved the administration of LSD to unwitting subjects in social situations. At least one death, that of Dr. Olson, resulted from these activities. The agency itself acknowledged that these tests made little scientific sense. Well, I don't know about that. The agents doing the monitoring were not qualified scientific observers.
Here we go.
Now, this is important. In July 2001, some surviving information regarding MKUltra was officially declassified. We have the links for you. We have the links. We also have photostat 2 pages of these documents in our show notes, which we will now read to you. Or some of it at least. Dave, do you want to take the first point? I think you should be able to. It's not the best copy, but can you make it out?
Yeah, I can perfectly. In connection with our survey of Technical Services Division DD/P, it was deemed advisable to prepare the report of the MKUltra program in one copy only, in view of its unusual sensitivity.
Point number 2. This report is forwarded herewith.
Point 3. The MKUltra activity is concerned with the research and development of chemical, biological, and radiological materials capable of employment in the clandestine operations to control human behavior. The end product of such research are subject to very strict controls, including a requirement for the personal approval of the Deputy Director/plans for any operational use made of these end products.
Point number 4. The cryptonym, you love that, MKUltra encompasses the R&D phase, and a second cryptonym, MK-Delta, denotes the DDP, which is the deployment system for control of the operational employment of such materials. The provisions of the MKUltra authority also cover redacted. The administration and control of this latter activity were formed to be generally satisfactory and are discussed in greater detail in the main body of the report on TSD. I love the redacted bits.
I'm going to use the word classified.
Yes.
When you hear me say classified, it's because it's been blanked out or reducted. Point 5. MK Ultra was authorized by the then Director of Central Intelligence, the CIA, Mr. Alan W. Dulles.
We remember Dulles, the Dulles brothers, might.
Yes,
might.
in 1953. The TSD was assigned responsibility thereby to employ a portion of its R&D budget, eventually set at 20%, for research in behavioral materials and classified under purely internal and compartmented controls, further detailed, are provided in paragraph 3 of the attached report, which I don't think we have.
No.
Normal procedures for project approval, funding, and accounting were waived. However, special arrangements for audit of expenditures have been involved in subsequent years. And then there's another bit there that's been classified.
Correct. Point 6, and this is only a couple more points here, but we want to share with you. Point number 6, this is about the scope. The scope of MK Ultra is comprehensive and ranges from the search for and procurement of botanical and chemical substances through programs for their analysis in scientific laboratories to progressive testing for effect on animals and human beings. The testing on individuals begins under laboratory conditions, employing every safeguard and progresses gradually to more and more realistic operational simulations. The program acquires and obtains the services of a number of highly specialized authorities in many fields of the natural sciences.
Point 7. Pardon me. The concepts involved in manipulating human behavior are found by many people, both within and outside the agency, to be distasteful and unethical. There is considerable evidence that opposition intelligence services are active and highly proficient in this field. The experience of the TSD to date indicates that both the research and the employment of the materials are expensive and often unpredictable in results. Nevertheless, there have been major accomplishments both in research and operational employment.
Yes, sir. And 8. The principal conclusions of the inspection are that the structure and operational controls over this activity need strengthening. Improvements are needed in the administration of the research projects, and some of the testing of substances under simulated operational conditions was judged to involve excessive risk to the agency.
Wow. Attached for the signature of the Deputy Director of CIA is a memorandum transmitting the report to Deputy Director/Plans, requesting a summary of action taken or comments on the recommendations contained therein. Mecky, that's pretty damning, I have to say.
Well, it is. I mean, this is actually freely available, guys. So we, as I said, I'm actually going to post the links into the chat now, guys. But you're you're welcome to look in our show notes and get them from there. But certainly, this is where you can find the surviving documents, and they're photostated. Okay, if you are in the States, I think you might be able to look at the original documents yourselves. If you can, that'd be great. Educate yourself. If you do, please send the links or pictures that you take to Dave and I. That would be much appreciated. Please do if you can. Now, this next bit here is a controversial case study. Once again, tinfoil hat zone. Dave, the same warning that we have given the warning. We have not called off the warning, so I expect
the warning's still valid.
Still strapped in, still with your arms inside the vehicle. Your flash photography devices have been left at the counter. This is about Bryce Taylor, and she. And this is actually a pseudonym for Susan Ford, and apparently one of the highest level MK Ultra mind-controlled victims to ever come forward and reveal her story. You can buy her book. It's Thanks for the Memories. It was published in May 1999, and it took almost 13 years to recover her memories and in numerous regression therapy sessions, hypnosis, and so forth. And apparently her memories began to return in sporadic fragments in 1985, following a car accident that threw her through the windshield of her car after hitting a tree. It is not unusual that traumatic, both physical and psychological events such as this trigger repressed memories. Dave, I understand, your family has had some experience with this kind of therapy, right? I mean, your mother was quite active in the field.
Yes, absolutely. In regression therapy, yes.
Yep. And it's quite it's well, I don't want to say common, but it's not unusual for this to occur, right?
No. In fact, we've even done a couple of stories on this. After a severe car accident, someone started talking another language. They didn't even know, and yet they were fluent, which is extraordinary. It was almost like they were mind swapped with someone else. Some people have just woken up with an accent that they didn't have before, which is very unusual. But for your own memories to be suddenly revealed, or the screen memories to be lifted, that's something else. And well done. Going through the trauma, obviously the initial trauma of the whole thing, it's something else. I hat off to her.
Yeah. No, and Dave, I just wanted your input there, of course, because I want you guys to understand that it is trauma that both brings memories back and represses them. It is well known that hence that's what they're using to create these mind control, I guess, called mind slaves. Yeah, and they're trying to compartmentalize your mind. They're creating dozens of personalities at times, right? But let's look at Bryce Taylor's case here a little bit closer. Now, it appears that it wasn't really an accident, the car crashing, but rather a mind control, program that compelled her to commit suicide, or at least attempt suicide. And if she ever began to recover critical memories about her role as a top-level NSA, CIA mind-controlled asset. And apparently she was used as a sex slave and a message or drug courier for every president from Kennedy to Clinton. And she was Henry Kissinger's personal secretary / human computer, file storage and retrieval for over 19 years, or so she claims. Her owner handler, and this is probably where it's going to get hard for a lot of you guys, was comedian Bob Hope. And she was loaned out to many famous and well-known entertainment personalities in order to oblige them to be holding to and be manipulated by Hope and his Illuminati confederates. So they could be used as worker bees to help usher in the New World Order. Now this is hard to swallow. I get that. Yeah. So I like Bob Hope as well, his movies and such. Now, her book is probably the most revealing account to date of well-known national personalities in both politics and the entertainment industry who are involved in the handling, programming, control, manipulation, and abuse of Illuminati / government-created human robots like Bryce, or other well-known celebrity mind control victims such as
Barbara Streisand.
Yep, and Barbara Mandrell.
And it's also been stated that this also could include Rihanna, also Beyonce. There's a number of people currently that, even Madonna, to that fact, that have all been swept up in it.
If you want to know more, now we're going to talk to Solaris next week, of course. But if you want to know more about this, there's a person that writes about this extensively, and that's David Icke. He names names as well. Have a look at his books. I know he's way out there on the fringe, but you know what? Sometimes you have to be. And in fact, going back just 1 second here, going back to one of the substances, which will make you here we go. Substances which will promote illogical thinking and impulsiveness to the point where the recipient would be discredited in public. Now, David Icke, when he first became prominent, I guess, in the conspiracy field, said out loud that he was the Son of God. He was here to usher in the New Age. He was the Messiah. He had, prior to that, been a successful soccer player or football player in the UK. He had been a very successful sports commentator as well. So he was on the BBC, right? He was actually working in the public limelight, and obviously everybody ridiculed him. And to him, he said it was actually a freeing experience, because then he could focus on what really happened. But he doesn't know. He thinks that something happened and he had to make these statements and become discredited so he could actually focus on his research. And now he has revealed a whole bunch of things, and he has never been sued by anyone. Yeah. He has never been taken to court for libel or anything like that, or for
slander,
reputational damage, slander, nothing, zero. So, and it's the same with Bryce Taylor. As far as I know, she has never been taken to court by anyone. Okay, it's very important that we realize this, and maybe they haven't been taken to court because the court sessions might reveal an uncomfortable truth. Okay, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. You must allow these people to express themselves. Now, thanks for the memories and the two co-authored Illuminati formula books of Cisco Wheeler and Fritz Springmeier are important and revealing books on the subject of Illuminati mind control. Right, and if you can get your hands on it, I say it again. This is Cisco Wheeler, Cisco just like the switches. I'm an IT guy, and Fritz Springmeier. Okay, those are the guys that co-authored Illuminati formula. And thanks for the memories with Bryce Taylor. Now she's not the only one. There's other cases. She's just the most well-known person out there that spoke up. And and hey, maybe Dave and I have repressed memories. Maybe you, our listeners, some of you have repressed. You would never know. That's the thing. You would never ever know. You might get a call.
I was going to say that, Mickey. Yep.
Right.
Remember, I mentioned this last week. Rosebud.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So you might have been programmed through a common TV show, or you went to the movies. You don't know. It's you're an unwitting participant in their experiment, and one day you get a phone call. It looks like an overseas call center, and they say one word to you, and you're now on. They've turned on whatever it is. They're programming, and you go and enact that task. They've programmed you to perform. Some people say Lee Harvey Oswald. So there's a lot of people, a lot of things. Mickey, I'm just going to take this for a sec. I've got a newspaper clipping and photograph of a commission on CIA activities within the United States, and the headline reads: CIA infiltrated 17 area groups, gave out LSD, and suicides were revealed, and the district is in the focus. And that's some extraordinary headline right there. Knowing what you know now, I couldn't reveal this earlier, but knowing what you know now about the MK Ultra project, and you can even think about Timothy Leary, promoting it. Maybe he was an MK Ultra subject.
Possible.
It's completely possible.
And he was in the right circle of people at that time.
Yeah, completely.
He was at Berkeley. So,
yeah. So don't put it past all of the experimentation, the hidden meaning or messages within music and all of the things that are in popular culture for you to be what they call, it may be programmed as a super soldier or programmed to perform some task, maybe a sleeper for your country of origin if you're not a native if you weren't born in your current country.
Oh, absolutely.
So one of the biggest things that I see connected with this was the tremendous paranoia about are you or have you ever been a communist? That was a witch hunt.
Yes, it was. And
for what purpose? What was that going to do, having a single person ever being a little bit more left than everybody else?
Absolutely. No, the McCarthy years were horrible for the United States. It was a witch. There's no other word for it. Now, if you have the chance, please watch Utopia. It's now in its second season. It's season 1, season 2. It's called Utopia, just like the Utopian city, Utopia. It's a British series. I think it's 5 or 6 parts for each season. So all you have to watch is 5 or it's like 10, 12 parts of it. And you would be astonished. You would be astonished as to the content. All the stuff we're talking about, with except maybe the final conclusion, slightly different from ours, is exactly how we're portraying it. Now, we've spoken about before how art imitates life and life imitates art, and how there seems to be a rising of the subconscious. There seems to be something bubbling up, all right, that we become more aware of. Do watch Utopia. It might take you by surprise, especially if you're in the States. See if you can get it somehow. I don't know, by Netflix or something. I don't know, but please make the effort to watch Utopia. I will talk about that more next time. Now, Dave, before we go for today, though, We found this article on the internet. It was published November 11, 2014, so just some 6 weeks ago. And it was titled "Brain-to-Brain Link Makes Mind Control Possible." Okay, this is in fact from www.lifescience.com. Okay, it's a scientific website. And this is the content. Humans could be much more efficient communicators if they could bypass language altogether and directly transmit thoughts, ideas, and instructions from one brain to another. No argument there. Scientists have demonstrated that instant brain-to-brain communication could become reality with the help of computers. Isn't that what we just discussed with John von Neumann?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that what he was trying to do?
Yeah.
And now they're revealing this to us? Yeah?
Absolutely.
Now, apparently, this is crazy.
Can I read the next bit?
Please.
In recent experiments, researchers from the University of Washington showed that they could send one person's thoughts through a computer to control the hand motion of a person sitting half a mile or 0.8 kilometers away.
What?
I know.
The team first demonstrated this brain-to-brain connection was possible back in August 2013. Yeah, sure you did. But now the researchers have put technology through more rigorous testing and are close to making it usable in real-world scenarios, they said.
Wow. To make the mind meld possible, one person is hooked up to an electroencephalography cap, which is covered in sensors. I've actually had one of those on. That pick up brain signals. I have actually had one of those, Mickey.
Oh, cool.
And they said they only use 6-inch nails, not the 9-inch nails as normal. So that's a joke. If you're into that, yeah, that's funny. Not into if you're into 9-inch nails, NIN. But if you're, anyway. And sends them as electronic pulses to the second person, who is wearing a cloth swim cap with a transcranial magnet simulation coil on top. That sounds like my tinfoil hat. The coil
it's a flux capacitor.
It's a flux capacitor. I don't think these guys are serious, but this is a serious story. The coil is placed near the area of the brain that controls hand motion. The first person thinks about moving his hand, or his or her hand, and the brain signal is transferred to the second person, triggering a twitchy hand movement. This is early days, people. But you know what, Mickey? I actually saw a visualization of a person's thoughts on a computer screen that showed a pixelated version of what they were thinking. They would serious. They're serious. I'm serious, and I thought, wow, that's gonna do law a lot better, isn't it? You'll say, where were you? Did you actually kill them? And if you see the picture of them killing them, okay, lock him up.
Yeah. Now, but bear in mind that this is what they're revealing to us now. This is what's in the official, in the public domain. The great unwashed can know about this now, right? Dave, you guys, everybody at the station, we can now, except for you military folk that are listening, you probably know this already. But this is now being made available to us to know. This is what I'm saying this right now. I'm saying this, Dave, I'm going to put it out there. I reckon the military is 40 to 50 years ahead of anything we know.
Of course.
At the very least, right?
Flying around in UFOs already. Using mind control on everybody.
Yep, completely. Now, in fact, the elite, and I'm not talking about the people that you think are the elite, but the actual people that are running the planet, or entities, or whatever, are even further ahead of that. But we are now being allowed to know this. We are allowed to know this. And this is mind-boggling. And in fact, let me share. Let's share the rest of this article with our esteemed listeners. The researchers tested the technology using 3 pairs of volunteers. Each sender and receiver sat in a separate building on the University of Washington campus, about half a mile apart. The sender sat in front of a simple computer game, wearing the ECG cap. I'm going to say here. The game featured a city under siege by a pirate ship, and the senders were instructed to defend the city by firing a cannon. However, they were not allowed to touch any of the game's controls and could only defend the city by thinking about firing the cannon.
In a separate building, the receiver sat in a room with his or her right hand poised over the touchpad that controlled the cannon. If the brain-to-brain technology was successful, then the receiver's hand would twitch and tap the touchpad.
Not every sender and receiver pair was equally successful. The researchers found that the accuracy varied from 25 to 83%. Still pretty impressive.
Total mind control, in which a sender controls the receiver like a marionette puppet, will not be possible anytime soon. I still laugh at that. Yeah. The researchers said, but the team does plan to start working on a more sophisticated interface that can decode and send more complex brain signals. They hope to eventually transmit concepts and thoughts which could someday facilitate instant transfer of knowledge from teacher to student. I don't think we need technology between us. I think that whole Kappan thing was a whole bunch of hooey.
Oh, I agree. Yeah. I agree. And then look, they're spinning it positively, which is cool.
That's right.
I get it. But so you imagine someone who's brilliant but a terrible teacher, and I imagine that the complex knowledge is hard to explain. Because limited by language, limited by maybe your inability to teach effectively. Imagine if you can just think it at someone. So you're just uploading someone's knowledge, and that's cool. I get it, and that's all good. These are the good applications. Hey, TV could be a great application for civilization. It's not. It's not.
It isn't.
Okay, it just isn't.
Look what they've done to TV. The best thing ever, and all it is the Kardashians and infomercials.
Completely, and internet is for porn. Okay?
Yeah.
The single greatest communication, the two single greatest communication devices, the TV, right? And I'm banning this with the radio here, and internet. Completely misused. I'm not talking about every single case, I'm talking about the vast majority of its use. Okay?
That's right.
The vast majority of its use. So, where does that leave us? It leaves us in a somewhat precarious spot, in a precarious situation where Dave and I feel very strongly that mind control is a very real thing. I mean, how often do you find yourself on autopilot when you're driving a car? I mean, it's just human nature. I mean, I've done it myself. I went jogging, I don't know, 10, 12 kilometers, and after the second kilometer, I can't tell you how I got home. Because I guess it's like a human mind thing where you just fall into like an autopilot mode, and these people or entities or whatever are taking advantage of that. Because most of us are asleep most of the time. Again, I'm gonna go into popular culture here. Go and watch the movie They Live by John Carpenter. They Live. I'm not saying it's gonna win any Oscars, but watching that movie the first time, I thought, wow, that's my life. That guy is living my life, trying to beat people into understanding what's going on when he tries to make the other guy, the black guy, wear the glasses, right? With which you then could see what's going on, And I don't want to kill the movie for you, but do yourself a favor. Watch it.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's that movie, Mekki, where the guy ends up escaping in the boat, and it's Jim Carrey, and his whole life is all about...
The Truman Show.
Yeah, Truman Show.
Yeah.
That's the game that they play on us.
Yeah, completely.
That's the top-down view of how they think that they control us. They're probably doing a great job. I really do think that. They're doing good on them. Yep. I'd like to be able to see the other side of the curtain. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. But
that's
that was a great observation in The Wizard of Oz.
Absolutely.
But what they've done is they're turning us into idiocracy.
Yes.
If we could have turned into any movie in the future, I thought it might have been Fifth Element, or it might have been Blade Runner or something. It's not that shiny, clean civilization thing that we always dreamt of, which in the 50s, which was impossible.
Yeah.
But I'm sort of convinced what they've actually done is hindered us by oppressing us mentally.
Oh, no doubt.
Educationally. Yeah, is that right, Mekki?
Oh, look, Dave, this is my pet peeve. This has not just been going for the last few decades. You look at the history, as we know it, of the human race, and it is interspersed by periods of brilliance. Okay, the Athens under Pericles, 30 years of peace and prosperity. Right, wiped out by the Peloponnesian Wars and other Athenian warmongering and I guess the Persian invasions and all kinds of wonderful things.
Tyrannical governments, Mekki, come to mind.
Yeah, completely. We have been manipulated into mediocrity. Okay, our entire existence and I keep saying this and I'll say it again. You have an escape hatch. We have an escape hatch right in the middle of our brain. Okay, it's called the third eye. It's your pineal gland. It's the only way for you to escape this place. Okay, and but the thing is this: the thing is this doesn't have to be like this. This place doesn't have to be like this. It could be better. We could be living in that shiny world. What happened to anti-gravity? What happened to all these amazing Tesla inventions? Okay, what happened? Why aren't we using them? Free energy, huh? The one thing that's keeping everybody oppressed is the use of energy, the need for energy. Oh, no, we need more energy. The wars that are being fought, ostensibly for energy, not really, but we can say they are. We need the oil, we need this, we're addicted to oil.
Completely.
Our entire civilization is built on the car. Look outside. What is the dominant feature in our cities? Roads, car parks, petrol stations.
I found a vein for some more oil.
Quickly, let's plug it. And this is the problem, guys. We're not living in the world that we could, and we let it happen. Okay, the banking system, everything is set up so that we feel we are in servitude. We have no choice but to live this life.
But I like servitude. Don't you, Becky? Isn't it great?
It's the best. I don't want to go for a re-education. It's poppycock. It's poppycock, guys. It is, okay? You have a choice. We all have a choice.
Look, 1984, do you know what I heard this week? Remember how, we did a show in 1984, Mecky?
Absolutely.
And what was that show all about? It was the contrast, right?
Completely.
At the time it was written, the contrast was so exaggerated that no one reading the book thought it could ever happen.
Yeah.
And clearly, here we are, sitting right in the middle of the book, right near the end.
Yeah.
And do you know what happened this week?
Go on.
A man was arrested, and I'm furiously trying to Google this right now as I'm speaking, because he was carrying a copy of the book.
What?
Yes.
Which country?
Oh, I can't remember. Arrested. I heard the student arrested for carrying George Orwell's novel 1984 in Egypt.
Wow. Sure,
Okay.
let's burn those books. Let's burn them.
And it's one of the original prints too, by Penguin.
Wow.
Great cover, not the original, but one of them. A security services arrested a student in front of the main gate of Cairo University for carrying George Orwell's novel 1984, which tackles corruption and dictatorial military regimes.
Wow. That is... How wrong is that?
All right, so wait for
Does it
this.
get any...
According to investigators supervised by Major General Mohammed Farouk, head of Giza investigators, student Mohammed T, as he'll be known, 21, who resides in the neighborhood, was arrested Sunday while in possession of 2 cell phones without batteries, 2 USB drives, a hard disk, and a copy of the novel 1984 that speaks about the two. We know what it's about. My goodness. They also found notes on the student referring to the Islamic Caliphate and how it should be applied in a country, according to investigators.
Wow. Oh!
1984, oh no, they've found us out.
Yeah. How about that, right? How about that? I mean, we're living 1984, guys.
We are.
The cameras everywhere. You can argue up and down the river. In fact, Brave New World is happening as well. Middle America is becoming drug addicted. All of Middle America.
Yep.
Okay. You can close your eyes to it. It's a fact. Nothing easier controlled than a drug-addled population. It's the truth. In fact, this was the CIA's program. They wanted to get the drugs into the inner city ghettos, which they did after Vietnam. Oh, during Vietnam, in fact, right? They did the same thing.
Wasn't one of those points we just read out in the doctrine for MK Ultra was to a substance which can allow people to be more easily controlled?
Absolutely.
Do you know they just passed the bill in New South Wales, Mecky, that allows the use of medical marijuana?
Is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay.
No,
Wow.
we'll have fully legal marijuana any minute now.
Wow. Sorry, we have to do one thing. I just saw it on YouTube. Gavin Gerard will shout out to your mum. I don't know what her name is, but there you go. Thanks for watching. Have a look at the YouTube channel, Dave. You know what I mean.
Okay, cool.
But look, completely, and it is a sad state that we live in, where we let this happen, where we allow this to happen. and where we become controlled and where we have no out. I mean, in fact, if you are a drug addict, okay, and if you probably don't have the energy to do anything against the government, right? I mean, it's great. Yeah, I'll just vote for you or not. Doesn't really matter. In Australia, we have to. In America, you don't. But I'll let you do whatever you want to do. Oh, you want to kill me off? Yeah, that's okay. I have nothing to live for anyway.
I think it's a bit. I think it's a little late, though, in the US to revive the company that made Twinkies. Had they legalized marijuana sooner, that company would still be alive today.
Yeah, that's so true. He's talking of the munchies, of course.
Yes.
You know, I read about that once. So we need to make you understand that mind control is happening right now in various forms. We shared with you subliminal messaging, marketing, messaging or other. Now there's true mind control programs. There's no theory about this. It's a fact. Other things are happening in other parts of the world that are aimed at controlling you. They want to control you on a macro level. Have you ever? I mean, when you Google. You're Googling for, I don't know, a trip to I don't know, England or whatever. And you open up another web page on another computer, in another browser.
Yeah.
And these advertising pieces will come up. Trips to the UK, cheap, whatever, right?
22 points of interest.
Yeah. They're already mapping your personality online. They are mapping your personality, guys. Mm-hmm. It's happening. Facebook, you give it away. You tell everybody everything. Are you nuts?
And who thought they would do it voluntarily, Mickey? That's what the CIA say.
I know.
Well, show 148, all done, wrapped up. We'll see you next week. Great interview with Solaris. It's all about mind control still. Continuing the theme. We'll see you next week for show 149.